I just saw a Carrera GT, a yellow one. We have an Xfinity van in our way. Please don't get in the way of this beautiful Carrera GT. Hey guys, welcome back. This week I've been driving the 2025 Mazda CX-30 Turbo. There have been some minor differences from 24 to 25, and I'll go over those today. But make sure to stay to the end after we're done reviewing this, because I'm going to put it on a spreadsheet comparing it to other models I've already reviewed here in 2025, see how it stacks up. Is this a good buy? And we'll also look for deals in my area on the Mazda CX-30 with both powertrains, all right? And you're going to be surprised what we come up with at the end, because, well, I've already came up with the verdict, but I think you guys will be really surprised about what I have to say about this vehicle and it, other Mazdas in the lineup. So ash gray metallic, this is a new color. We've seen this on the MX-5 previously, and it is, I guess, very trendy. It seems like a lot of manufacturers have this sort of paint color. It looks quite good. It kind of looks like the urban gray pearl that Honda and Acura use, except it doesn't have as much pearl in it. There's a little bit of metallic flake. But also for 2025, guys, they have reduced the connected services to just 1 year. So if you want remote start, you only get 1 year. Previously, like on a 24 model, for example, it was 3 years of connected services that was included with the vehicle. Let's get back into the exterior design. We have a blacked out grille here on this turbo model, 18-inch wheels, and I do think the Mazda CX-30 is a beautiful looking subcompact crossover. If Mazda could just find a way to paint match these really big black plastic wheel arches and cladding around the vehicle, and make it look so much more premium. The dual exhaust in the back looks amazing. The turbo badge looks good back here. We have the really cool heartbeat turn indicators, which is a Mazda staple. Cargo capacity is actually really solid back here. We have a spare tire with a Bose subwoofer underneath. You can fold down these seats. Of course, that's the practicality of a hatchback slash crossover, is the added functionality. And you guys probably want to see under the hood. All right, so let's go and do this. Now this Mazda CX-30 is built in Mexico. Some of them come in from Japan, but they're all going to be hit with tariffs probably at some point. Very big hood here, I should say heavy hood. You would have a prop stick right there. Skyactiv G Turbo, up to around 250 horsepower with 93 octane and 320 pound-feet of torque, but you can get the naturally aspirated 2.5 liter, which is a standard model, and that gives you around 191 horsepower if memory serves me correct. All of them are standard all-wheel drive, which is really nice, and all of them are connected to a 6-speed automatic. Not too bad, right? Everyone's doing CVTs nowadays. So let's go ahead and get this into the shade so we can actually see the interior without some harsh lighting. All right, backing her up, you can see we have a 360 camera here, pretty good turning radius, as I really didn't line up that parking spot very well, but you can also see that we have parking sensors there on the back. So let's put it into park, and let's get into the back seat, because I haven't showed you that yet. And then we'll get back into the front seat. And it keeps locking on me, so let's go ahead and unlock. All right, now I have been taking my kids to school in this vehicle, and I have moved this seat pretty much all the way forward to accommodate my children. And this is the nice tan, or should I say beige interior, real light. Maybe not the best interior for kids. And on this top Turbo Premium Plus model, with it being perforated, at least, they're not going to stick to it too much. But, I can just imagine this sort of light material maybe staining over time with children, but you do have other options as well. We do have vents back here, which is actually pretty rare in a subcompact crossover to see these. So it's a welcome addition, but there's no charging ports back here, which is maybe falling a little bit behind. Just a standard sunroof, nothing crazy, no panel roof in here with a little map light above. Materials on the door, hard touch up top, nice, really soft armrest, good stitching here. All right, but you can see this is set up for me at 6'1". I wouldn't want to be back here for long, and that's the thing about the CX-30. It just feels pretty compromised in the back seat, and surprisingly, I have good headroom at my height as well. So getting into the front seat, much better materials here all the way around on the top, the middle, and the bottom. We got the Bose sound system here, which sounds fantastic. These seats, they are not ventilated, just perforated. For this sort of money, I would expect more than just heated seats, and that's something I also said about the CX 30's, I guess, stablemate, the Mazda 3 hatchback that I reviewed. It didn't have ventilated seats, but we do have a heated steering wheel, heated seats, and let's get into the rest of it. We do have a head-up display. I'll go and play some B-roll. It is really crisp, really clear. It's not the biggest head-up display, but it does sit up nice and high, so I'm not looking down. All right, sometimes head-up displays, they don't sit up much more than the line of the hood, and so you might as well not even have a head-up display in that case, because you might as well just look down to your instrument cluster. All right, so I like how high this sits, and it's almost directly in line with my line of sight, which is pretty nice for me. All right, digital screen right here, not the most customizable. I don't care because it's pretty, it's functional, and I'm getting about 20 miles per gallon. So there you have it. If you want fuel economy, the naturally aspirated model might get you slightly better fuel economy, but not nearly the same performance. All right, I want to say this is a 10-inch screen here. It is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, of course, equipped. I've enabled the touchscreen functionality to it, so that's great that you can do that. Now, you can tell it's not designed to be a touchscreen, at least when they designed this vehicle, because it's so far recessed into the dash, but it looks nice. You can still use a rotary dial to interact with it. It is not, I mean, some ways it does work really well, but not really with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. This rotary dial is really meant for the base software, which I don't spend a lot of time in. Climate control is fantastic right here, real basic, minimal buttons, couple dials, and I'm a happy camper with it. All right, the fans are also in a great position to cool me down. I'm happy with the air conditioning in here. The dash, the materials in the dash are super soft, very premium feeling. Auto dimming rearview mirror. We do have sunglasses holder. All right, this is a fun to drive small compact crossover, so let's go and start driving it. Now I do have like what it sounds like a rubbing sound. I want to call it like maybe a bit of a creak, not necessarily a rattle, but it's constant. Anytime you hit the smallest bump in a road, you just kind of hear what sounds like two leather pieces kind of like squeaking together. It is, you know, just something to consider in this vehicle. And I have heard the door here at times as well when I'm driving a bit faster. I don't know if it's sealed absolutely perfectly like a luxury car would be, but that's just something also to consider as I pull. Actually, as I'm pulling this, I think I just figured out what's going on. And this is here we go. Come on, get into the no turning lane. My goodness gracious, goodness gracious. There we go, I fixed it. The liner here was not properly on the rim of the metal part of the window frame, so I just had to put that back in there. All right, so small things to consider, you know, build quality on this. It's made in Mexico. I don't think it's going to be built as well, maybe it's just a hunch, as the ones in Japan, but I have driven ones in Japan as well that have, you know, some little squeaks happening. So it's not just the Mexican made ones, but yeah, I don't know what's going on with, oh, that lady's not happy because that Subaru Crosstrek almost just blew her away. So let's get back into the normal driving. All right, driving the CX-30, it is a pleasure. I have fun driving this vehicle. Now, for my size, the windows do feel really small. Luckily, you know, I can drive this a little bit like a sedan. It feels a lot like the Mazda 3, obviously, but like you can lower the seat really far in this vehicle. Let's do a U-turn. Let's test out that turning radius. It's really tight. That's great. That's what you want out of a maneuverable subcompact crossover. And then you get into this turbocharged Skyactiv G engine, and it's just torque for days. You never feel like you have to fully put the pedal down ever. All right, you don't have to rev this engine out much because you just have so much torque. It just nonchalantly propels you to your desired speed. All right, it is fantastic. I always compare this engine almost to like an old V8. All right, old naturally aspirated V8 with lots of torque. Doesn't sound as good, but it's just, you always have that torque on tap, and it's very satisfying. And then the 6-speed auto, you press the pedal down, one downshift, and poof, you're gone. I love it. All right, I love this automatic. I love how this vehicle performs. It is very enjoyable from an enthusiast aspect, and you would never expect this vehicle just by looking at it to be remotely quick. All right, just looks like a nicely designed crossover, but it doesn't look that sporty, not like the Mazda 3. So this is much more of a sleeper sort of subcompact crossover. All right, the steering in here is typical Mazda. It's on the heavier end, but it is still pretty quick. All right, meaning just with the smallest inputs, it wants to dive into the turn, which I really like. Now, when you push these Mazdas just slightly, they feel really good, but when you get to the upper limits of their handling, you really feel the suspension being overwhelmed. All right, it feels really nose heavy, especially with this turbocharged setup. And then when you add in the torsion beam rear suspension that we have on this and the CX-50 and the Mazda 3s, for example, they do a good job. I would say that the ride quality in here is good, but it's not quite as desirable in terms of overall performance and overall high-end handling. But for the most part, it's really good. And unlike the Mazda 3s, I get into the brakes, this has a really predictable brake pedal and brake feel. It has good stopping power. The Mazda 3, it's hit or miss when I drive those cars. We have a roadblock here. The Mazda 3's brakes are hit or miss. Sometimes they give me zero confidence. They just have a weird linearity to them. All right, we're just gonna piggyback off this Mercedes here and use that torque to quickly get around. All right, the safety features in here I would say are just okay. Where in a lot of its competition, let's say a Corolla, for example, a Corolla Cross, those safety features are standard. I believe you have to pay extra for the lane centering here, and it's not as good as Toyota's. So you're not going to get this vehicle for the safety features. They're here in the top trim. They're fine, but they're not class leading. All right, you buy this vehicle because of the design, the interior, and the performance that it gives you for the price point. I love the traditional shifter. The comfort in here is better even than the Mazda CX-5 and possibly the CX-50. The CX-50 being built in Alabama, the CX-50 hybrid. I'll talk about that here once we're done driving it. Typical Mazda fashion, the armrests are the most comfortable in the industry. Your elbows just sink into them, and that's something that's going to age real nicely. You see companies that skimp on elbow pads on their vehicles. When they skimp on it, in just a few years it becomes like a rock hard surface. All right, so oh shoot, didn't see this guy. That's why we have great brakes, and I really appreciate those really nice brakes. All right, so we're gonna get around and get into the torque. Oh, sounds good, feels good. It just feels so effortless, this turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's fantastic, this 2.5 liter. I really like it. But is this a good buy? Should you be buying this? Well, let's go ahead and look at deals in my area for the Mazda CX-30. Let's throw this in the turn one last time though. There we go. There we go. I mean, there's this construction everywhere. This guy's waiting for me. We're gonna get around. Thank you. And yeah, let's go ahead and get in the office and talk about the highs and the lows of this vehicle. There's not a lot of lows. It's just kind of small, and there's plastic cladding on the outside. Those are my two biggest gripes. So let's get into the office and straight into that buying guide and then rank this CX-30 Turbo. Guys, before we do that, I just saw a Carrera GT, a yellow one, parked. So we're gonna drive by it nice and slowly and respectfully as an unsuspecting Mazda driver. Again, great turning radius, getting back into the torque. Let's see if we can wrangle this beautiful Carrera GT. I cannot believe, I don't know if I've ever seen one on the streets before. All right. Wow. Okay, I don't know if you guys saw that, but we're just going to do a U-turn here and not be too creepy about this situation. Oh, U-turns again. All right. Hello, ladies. They're doing some sort of maybe some boat cleaning. I don't know what they're up to. Maybe they're cleaning boats. We have an Xfinity van in our way. Please don't get in the way of this beautiful Carrera GT. Oh my God. All right, well, we're just gonna keep driving. Beautiful Beautiful. Other Porsches right here as well. And let's get back into the office. What a treat. All right, looking at CX-30s in my area. Well, looking at the naturally aspirated models, the base models, you can get them, guys, for around $25K. And I think under $30,000 for the CX-30 is the sweet spot. It's definitely, I mean, I would say it's the most fun to drive car in its segment. It's one of the better looking if you can get past all the plastic cladding at the bottom of the vehicle. And the interior is really, really nice. It's a very upscale premium feeling vehicle. So I'd say under $30,000 is a sweet spot. That means, what about the turbo? Well, looking at the turbo models, the CX-30 Turbo Carbon, I think that's what we're looking at here. You can get them for about $33,000. Guys, it's just, I mean, especially the model I drove today, it's just not worth it, in my opinion, because for once you're already up to the mid 30s, you have other options. Okay, if you really want this turbocharged engine, it is great in the CX-5. Okay, once you're over $30,000, just go buy a CX-5, guys. I'm telling you, that's the way I would be going. I like the CX-5 more than the CX-30. It is a fantastic vehicle. It just drives so well. It has a independent rear suspension, and I would take the turbo on this and even the naturally aspirated on this. All right, so under $30,000, that's a sweet spot for the CX-30, and that's really where it should be. All right, but it's good to it's good to have options, right? Also, you get the CX-50 hybrid starting in the mid 30s, and I'd much rather have a base CX-50 hybrid and get 36, 37, 38 miles per gallon compared to the 20 miles per gallon in the turbo. The performance is great in the turbo model, but guys, you can have good performance, not amazing or anything like that like the turbo. It's just really solid performance, really, really good fuel economy in the CX-50. And the CX-50 is bigger, more spacious, and a more accommodating vehicle. I will say the seats in the CX-30 might be more comfortable than the CX-50 and definitely more comfortable than the CX-5. That's the trade-off. All right, so where do I rank the CX-30 Turbo on the cars I've reviewed so far this year? Is it as good as the Mazda 3 Turbo hatch? And the answer is no. So I honestly just think it's a good buy. And to be honest, I'd rather have a Murano over this. I know it's not the price the same as a Murano. Fun to drive, it costs a lot of money, and it's small. Here's the thing, like I said, under $30,000, that would move the CX-30 straight into A tier for the naturally aspirated models. Let me know if you guys agree with that. I mean, it's a good car. Some of the quality control issues worry me a little bit with some of the little squeaks I heard and then the window trim thing not being on when I was driving. But it is an enjoyable car to drive. I would say you don't have to wait for a fire sale to buy this vehicle. I think it's a really, really good car as long as you can get around the really tight interior, especially in the second row. But thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more Mazda reviews. Hopefully I can get a CX-90, CX-70, some of the larger platform stuff here on the channel in the near term. Oh, and MX-5. Hopefully I can review that again because, well, I know where I'm putting that. So thank you guys. Have a great day and peace.